welcome to the Coaxum Report. This is Terry Coaxum, and I'm super delighted today. We're going to be joined by a very special guest who is in the kettle corn space. And so Tanisha is going to be joining us today, talking a little bit about some of her business best practices, some various best practices, and of course, big ideas. Tanisha, how are
Yes.
you?
What's poppin'? So happy to be here. Thank you for having me and our company on today. And I'm excited to learn
Awesome,
more about
awesome.
just you, your platform, and share hopefully some experiences that will inspire people to just keep going. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what this is all about. And for those of you that are listening for the first time, you can find us on Roku. You can find us on Android, on iPhone. You can also find us on social media platforms.
Which one?
Our TV network is our TV dot network is our platform. And so we are broadcasting. You don't know this. We're throughout all of the Caribbean. We're in
Wow.
Southeast Asia and all of the United States. And so the Coaxum Report is all about you. It's all about small business. I tell you right now, if you're joining us for the first time, take out a pen and paper because Nisha is going to be dropping some nuggets for you today, talking about her experience, her awards, her grants, and more importantly, how she got to where she is. And we're looking for her to do even bigger and better things. So Tanisha, tell us a little bit about Naughty But Nice Kettle Corn.
Yes, yes. Well, again, what's poppin'? We are always excited to share, how we even stumbled upon this idea and concept because in actuality, it was nowhere on my radar. I never had imagined, thought, dreamt any of it of like kettle corn, right? So it's just the irony of it is so crazy. I did know though, and I will say, our passion, I encourage people to think about like your passion. That's something that you think about doing all the time. You would do it if nobody paid you.
Right.
And your talent is that thing that people say, man, you're good at this. This is something you hear repetitively. And for me, I always was like, what is my talent? I would ask God, what is my talent? And sometimes your talent can be as simple as connecting with people, encouraging people,
That's right.
and inspiring people through just real, genuine connectivity. And so I was placed for adoption at birth. My dad is my superhero. I tell everybody, like, if you don't know real life superheroes, my father is one. He had to stop that adoption, and me and my mother have we've mended our relationship over the years. It's been a personal journey of mine, but I think it pours through into my life and who I am as a mother and a wife as well. And growing up between Birmingham, Alabama, and Virginia, my aunt, who is my dad's sister, she
Mhm.
took a great part in raising me as well as my grandparents, and she actually gave me the idea of kettle corn.
Oh,
She,
wow.
yeah, she was working with, a company in Fredericksburg. And originally her idea was like, you should think about franchising this idea. My dad is already an entrepreneur, had been for quite some time. And I really admired his work ethic and just his perseverance. But I also saw a lot of challenges being a person of color, a man of color in America, trying to grow a sustainable business. And he is still my superhero, even in that respect. But I have learned a lot of some from his pitfalls and how I can make it better, and how he can see even his vision that he started in something else materialize through me. And so when she gave me the idea, I kind of was like, kettle corn, really? In some ways I almost thought it was beneath me, right? Because I had had my degree, and I was, in the investment banking space, and in the digital marketing space. And, sometimes you just, you over romanticize some of these
Right.
other things that you do, not realizing that God is speaking and calling you to do something that really can catapult your life in a whole different way. So Naughty But Nice Kettle Corn was born in 2014.
The name,
Um,
though. Where did the
it,
name
the
come
name, yeah. So everybody says, "What's up with the name?" So we wanted something that was fun and catchy. We played with a lot of names, and when we thought about the product kettle corn, naughty but nice, we
from?
said, popcorn is generally a healthier snack alternative. But the flavors that in which we will create is, you're being a little naughty. So it's almost like you're getting this treat, but you're satiating that sweet tooth palate. And so naughty but nice, that's what we landed on. You're being it's a little sweet, a little salty also. So that's the flavor profile of all of our flavors. And so we thought it was a really cute name. And
It
so
really is catchy.
we
It
played
really
with
is
it.
catchy.
Yeah. And it was scary at first because it's like, is that too risky? But we stuck with it, and we've created the image of what people know us as. And so it's not some perverted thing. It's
Right.
something fun, and yeah. So yeah, and I gave birth to my daughter. Me and my husband had we had two sons before we got married, and I was on maternity leave. And I remember telling him when we were dating, I said, "Look, if we get married, just be ready, because I promise you, I'm leaving corporate America. I'm gonna be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm probably gonna start a business." I didn't know what it was, and he looked at me like, "Okay, sure," but we supported it, and here we are, a part of something we've manifested just with our mouth and writing it down, and
Absolutely. So let's stop right there with a nugget, because that's one nugget
yeah,
for those of you that
yeah,
missed it. So here we are, we stepping out on faith, right? We understand that we have this purpose. And so your aunt like fed that seed, like she watered that seed that was already inside of you with this idea. And in doing so, what she allowed you to do was to be creative. And so I'm saying to small business owners that are listening today, take a chance, like step out, even if you don't see the entire staircase, because you'll be so surprised at the direction that you're going to go in. And as long as you have the right people, and I always say this, I say, surround yourself with that mastermind group. Surround yourself with people that are going to pour into you and not just take out of you, right? Because that will be the difference in your success and in your failure, right? So that's number one. Number two is the name. It's in a name, right? Even when I read the 66 books that are in the Bible, and we read about all of these different individuals and their testimony, it's all in a name. Right. And so for you guys to step out on faith with this name that you knew were going to catch some eyes, and
like
it,
we couldn't just come with Tanisha's kettle corn. That wasn't gonna get it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We
You had
needed
to break
something that
through.
would
You had to break
outlive us.
through the noise. You had to break through the noise, but understanding that you're in a digital marketing space, and so you understand what that means, right? In an investment banking space, you understand that you have to break through the noise in order to have your voice heard. So that in itself, you took that time, and then to bring it all together full force to where you are right now. So you are an entrepreneur, you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a community leader, you're a sister, a mother, a friend, like you're all of these things. And so the thing that you're like glossing over all of this, I want you to pause for a minute, take a deep breath, because I want my listening audience to understand that you can do this too. You are a testimony of how this thing works, right? And so, I want to jump into, I want to go back a little bit, because we already jumped into like best practices and big ideas, right? But
Hmm.
I want to go to barriers. Like, what were some of the barriers to access for you to be able to get to where you are? I mean, your life alone was, started out as a barrier, but ended up being a great success story with your dad being your superhero, right? That could have been a barrier. You could have not been the person that you are today, but not for, right? So we're starting there. But in the business space, like, what are some of the things that you can kind of give to the listening audience? And remember, we're throughout all of the Caribbean, we're throughout all of the United States. There's small business owners that are listening to this testimony that you're giving, because you're not just giving a story, you're giving a testimony, right? So
Testimony.
they're listening to this testimony and they're saying, hey, wait a minute, I can do this. Now,
You
what are
can.
the barriers to this thing?
Yeah. Well, and I know it sounds trite and trivial, but I like to say getting to the place where I understood that nothing happens to me, it happens for me. And so, yeah, so nothing happens to us, it happens for us. And I speak about my kind of maternal relationship because I felt that that was something that I had questioned. And I know it's not this business answer that everybody's probably wanting me to delve right into, but we miss a lot of times the resilience that it takes, the
Mhm.
self awareness to even take this journey.
That's right.
Because as an entrepreneur, you are who you are is going to reflect into your business,
That's right.
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's
And
right.
so for me, the barrier was just, first of all, believing, right? We kind of
Mm.
touched on this in our
Nugget.
conversation. Ask, believe, receive, having this, this belief that no matter what I go through, and we talked about Auntie Oprah last night. I love you, Auntie Oprah. We need to be on your list of favorite things in 2023. But she said, you can have everything you want. I went to her conference just before the pandemic, my best friend and I, Camilla, and Oprah said, you can have everything that you want, just not at the same time.
That's right.
You can have everything you want, and it may not be at the same time. So I have mostly everything I want. I don't have everything. We still have revenue goals that we want to hit, but getting to the point, especially for you people out there who you haven't seen generational wealth, you
That's right.
haven't seen people to grow sustainable, impactful businesses. And
That's
it
right.
seems like a long shot for you, but you have some people. So the first thing I'll say is that was the first barrier, just really tapping into my power, my inner strength, my power, understanding all of the things that had been leading up to this moment has been preparing me for that. So
That's
you're
right.
on a job
Preparation.
right now. You're
Preparation.
working for
Right.
someone right now. You're
That's right.
doing something that you may be minimizing, but it's a part of what you need to do to
That's
get to that ultimate place of where, and I'm gonna say it, God is trying to take you.
Well, you can say that
Because
unapologetically. I'm Christian.
yeah,
Unapologetically.
all day. Because our paths are already orchestrated.
That's
Again,
right.
the sweet and the salty. So we like to play on the sweet and salty, girl. I just rub it in the ground. But I say it's the sweet and the salty moments of life that really make life pop. You
That's right.
cannot have the sweet without the salty. Those moments help us to grow. The number two is be intentional. Like once you decide I'm
Mhm.
going to take this, the
That's
second thing that I think was a barrier is, how do I transition from this corporate lifestyle to becoming a full-time entrepreneur? Luckily, my husband was still working, but some of you out there, you may be a single mom or a single dad, or you're a solopreneur and you're trying to figure out, like, how do I walk away from the security, quote
that's right.
unquote, of this
That's right.
job? What does that transition look like? So just trying to figure out, how do I make sure I'm insured? How do I make sure I have health insurance, life insurance, like all the things. That was the second barrier or fear. And then thirdly, I would just say, I'm not going to say I had necessarily like an issue with credit, because working in the financial industry, that was an advantage. But I'll just speak for the masses. Like if you haven't been in that industry, that's probably a general fear, right? Like you don't think about
Access to capital.
access to capital. But most importantly, we think of it, and the way it's taught in all of these small business accelerators is you gotta get business credit. Well, the reality is your business is nothing unless you are something. And
That's
that
right.
means you have to take care of your personal credit. You need to get your
That's
personal
right.
home in order. What does your personal financial statement look like? What assets do you have? Who are the people around you that may have access to capital? How can you bootstrap it? And really understanding the rules of the lending game. And I'm still learning after 8 years, and I've been in the industry. I feel like we've checked most of the boxes, but there's still always something to maneuver through. So having the right people around you is going to
That's
help
right.
you
Talked about
to
that.
cut through those barriers.
That's right.
I heard you say SBA. That's a powerful resource. Just that alone, even if you don't know anybody, going to the SBA website, and then having better mentorship. I was like, who are my mentors? Who are the people? But I trusted my pathway, and I just kept bulldozing through every obstacle. Entrepreneurship is the name of the game. It should be called problem solver. We shouldn't even be called entrepreneurs. It should be just, hey, you're a problem solver too. So am I, because you're constantly figuring out problems to solve. That's in your
Right.
products and services.
Absolutely.
And it's just in general how to grow a business. And so that is
So
probably
let's pause right there because you just gave a lot of great nuggets, right? So
okay.
you started off with you, right? And every entrepreneur, no matter who you are, you're coming with your history, right? You're coming with your toolbox, regardless of it's bitter, sweet, salty, sweet. You're coming
Yeah.
with your toolbox, right? You're coming with what you have, right, to the table to do this thing to solve these problems. That's number one, right? So
Right.
you're bringing yourself, and yourself can be a barrier. Yourself can be a barrier based on your history, based on your toolbox, right? That's number one. Then you came with security. Not all of us have security when we take this thing on, right? That problem solving role. We jump into it. Sometimes we jump into it head first, feet first. It depends on where you're landing, right? So you get into this problem solving space, right?
Yeah.
And then you surround yourself with the people that you need to take you to the next level. Because the thing that we do and we do well, and people say this to me all the time. They ask me, why don't women help each other? I said that's never been my story. I've always
Mine
had
either.
positive, strong women holding me down, supporting me, encouraging me, and pushing me. That's always been my story, and I am that
And
to other
Terry, can I
people
say one
because I
thing
am my sister's
regarding that?
sister.
The reason that you have that is because it's a reflection of what you're putting out.
That's
And
right.
that's why I keep going back to us, because that's the only thing that we have to control, right? I
That's
mean, we can talk
ourselves.
about the disparities, and those things are all real, but and we'll get into it, but even when you think about Think and Grow Rich, and you think about, how can people who have come from our ancestors who came from the worst situations rise up above that? And so it
That's
does
right.
come down to a choice, and you'll see that things will start to align. So sometimes the people will say, well, women don't want to help. Well, you have to say, well, how many seeds have I planted? How many people am I helping?
That's
And
right.
and I believe when you put it out, it will come back to you. It may
And
not
that's the
come from the
energy.
person you gave it to,
Yeah, that's the
but
energy.
when you're being genuine, it comes back to you. And I'm
So
no
true.
shade against whoever said that, but just
No,
I
but
encourage you to think about, like you said, pouring into others, because that is really, you know,
that's not, that
50% of our success has been because of people who thought of me, who thought
that's
of
right.
us.
But that's our obligation. That's our
It
obligation.
is.
Is one thing that I say all the time. The only time that you should be looking down at another woman is when you're pulling her up. Period.
Right.
There's no other way to look at it, right? So no matter
Absolutely
what
not.
that is, and that's why I'm always encouraging my sisters and my brothers, quite frankly, to do their part. Because like you said, the energy is real. The things that you surround yourself, and I do it without expectation, right? I stand in expectation from God, but I'm not expecting
Right.
anything from the people that I'm helping,
Yes.
encouraging, and receiving. I'm giving because that's who I am, right? And
Yes.
like you said, that energy will reciprocate. It will come back to you in so many ways, and not just to you, to your family, to your children, to your children's children, right? So I encourage anyone that's listening today to continue to be mindful of the energy that you're putting out, but more importantly, the everything that you are and everything
Yep.
that you're here to be. Make sure you're mindful of what that is, and don't be discouraged. Like I love the way you started, because you started with self. My guests don't usually start with self. They'll start with their
Oh,
business. You started with self. You were like, listen,
yeah.
let me just put it out there, right? Any questions?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love, I love the way you started, right?
Yeah,
And so, we talk about these barriers, and like you said, there is institutional barriers, right? Especially
absolutely.
when it comes to financing.
Absolutely.
We're taught that things that happen in our house supposed to stay in our house. We're not supposed to ask for anything. And how do we my mom would always say, a closed mouth don't get fed.
Right.
So if I don't ask for what I need, then how do you know what I need, right? So I'm of the belief that if you're an entrepreneur and you're in this space and you need something, ask, and you'll be very surprised at what your blessing
Who's
brings.
willing to help you?
Yeah,
And you
and if
know,
they're
back
not
to the
willing to
point
help
of
you, they
giving.
don't need to be in your circle, and that's another part of it.
Absolutely. And
That's
you'll
another.
find, you know, when you talk about circles, your circle starts to re-evolve. You have to be willing to let go. You know, like the saying goes, you know, to get what you never had, you got to do what you never did. And sometimes you find that, you know, like people who are trying to build a, you know, climb the corporate ladder, they no longer align with me. I have to be now around thought leaders and entrepreneurs because their challenges are different. And so I found that when I was even leaving, you know, I almost felt bad or guilty or crazy, like, wait a minute, should I really be trying to stay here? I'm getting promoted. I excelled in my job. And I'm like, kettle corn, you know, corporate America. And you know, but Zig Ziglar said, you know, you can have everything you want if you're willing to help other people get what they want and need.
That's right.
And I believe
That's
that
right.
because it
And
just
Think and
comes
Grow
back
Rich
full circle.
basically says the same thing as well, because it
Yeah,
speaks, it really speaks about you, what you're doing selflessly, right? You're literally giving everything that you have to give, and you'll get everything that you need from that. The other thing that I wanted to say is that you can't be the smartest one in the room. Like, you have to have
absolutely.
circles that elevate above you. If you want to grow, you have to be willing to go in uncomfortable spaces, right? And so when you said that to me, you were like, "Oh, I'm getting these promotions, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that." But in your space where he's leading you to was a different space. And so you had to go into these seminars and be surrounded by other entrepreneurs and ask questions that you wouldn't ask before, find out about business credit, but also understand the 3 C's when it comes to your personal credit. You cannot fund your business by your credit card, because that's going to bring you some whole other issues at 18% plus. All of these things that you need to understand, you could not learn those things by staying stuck. You have to be willing to step out, ask questions. You have to always,
Yeah.
you study to show yourself approved, right? So you literally need to be in a mindset as a small business owner that you're always learning. You're forever learning. And Bob Proctor talks about this in his book, Born Rich. He talks about you reading, showing yourself approved, studying, planning, educating yourself, listening in the car, listening on the phone. Like, always be in a space where you want to grow. In order for you to grow,
You're always a student. You're
you're
always a
always a student.
student.
And even the teachers
Another,
are students. I'm a teacher.
yeah,
I'm a student.
you're
I'm a
always a student. You're always a student, and I love that, you know, not being the smartest person in the room. And again, institutional barriers are definitely real, but I think that once we continue to educate ourselves, invest the time. Yeah, it's not fun sitting in these accelerators. I mean, I make the joke that I probably would have 3 MBAs, you know, if I combine all the hours I've spent over the years, from SBA to Goldman Sachs to local Cara, local accelerators. I mean, I've tried to do as many as I could because I knew I was no longer in corporate America where they were paying to train and educate me. It
That's
was
right.
now my duty to train and elevate myself.
That's right.
And the only way I would do that, so I couldn't make excuses and say, well, nobody wants to help me out. Well, you know, applied knowledge is power. So if I go out and I get the knowledge and I try my best to apply it, I'm re-surrounding myself with people who are either in the framework mind of me or above me, like you said, and some people who haven't reached where I am, and I can pull them up. It's a full circle moment. But you know,
But
obviously there are
also,
some
we're
more
also
structured things you can
understanding
do.
that you don't have to know how to do everything. You
Right.
can pay someone to do what you don't know how to do. And that comes out of Think and Grow Rich when we talk about the Henry Ford story. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was seen as the ignorant pacifist. And he said, I have a row of push buttons on my desk, and I can push a button I don't have to clutter up my mind with institutional knowledge I don't need. I can push any button on this desk and get anyone I need to do what I need them to do. And guess what? Now with technology, you can get them to do it faster. You can get them to do it fast. You
And
can
that's
get
a trust factor. That's
that's
definitely a trust factor, though. It's
oh man,
us
that's another
understanding.
nugget. That's another
That's
nugget.
another nugget.
That's another nugget that
Trust.
we need folks to understand, right? Because it is real. Like, trust is real. Like, I've had, entrepreneurs, because I train entrepreneurs into,
Awesome.
to growing and into being what they need to be. And one of the things is I don't want to tell anybody my idea. We said this on my last show too. Guess what? If you keep your idea so close to the vest and it never grows, it's never going to be an idea. It's never going to grow into anything that you need it to be. So you have to be able to share some components of it so that you can get the assistance you need to grow that idea into more than an idea. You want it to be tangible. You don't want it just to be an idea. You want to be able to change lives with whatever you're doing in whatever space you're doing it in, right? So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to tap into a lot of these different technologies that exist. There are virtual assistants. You don't have to know every database. You don't have to know every single thing. You know that you need a lawyer. You know that you need.
But I think understanding what, the challenge also is, I feel that we sometimes we do oversimplify. Hey, just hire this person. And you can appreciate this as a consultant, but when I talk to people, and I'm not a certified consultant yet, I'm actually considering it, but people understanding that there is a process to understanding your needs. Like, that's a whole process in itself. You can hire an accountant, but if you don't have practical knowledge of what you need to delegate to them, you can get screwed. If you hire a marketing team and you don't understand analytics and the things they should be doing, reading your reports and getting your free Google listing, or, looking at your website traffic, like, as an entrepreneur, it doesn't necessarily remove us entirely from the process, but we have to learn to first delegate and to really be clear of what our needs are. And that is us assessing our processes, right? From the start of your business. I don't care if you're in day one, and if you've been in business for 5 years, you start today. You should be documenting every single process of your business. I don't care if it's a sheet of paper and you transcribe it later. And I think that's a lot of times the challenge with us scaling as businesses, because we lack processes.
That's it. That's another nugget that I need people to understand. And you're absolutely correct. You have to understand what you don't understand, right?
Right.
So this is your business. So you have to invest the time, the energy, and the knowledge into getting to know the process of how your business is supposed to work.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're absolutely correct. And you are supposed to be able to document it. Google Docs make it a lot easier now.
Yes, it does. You can do that on a phone. The app is on here.
Exactly.
No excuse. Scribble your notes.
Put it in
organize
there.
them later, but just brain dump. Get it, what's in your head, out of your head, because there's no way you can delegate, grow a team, and implement processes that are effective and efficient to grow if you are not taking the time to say, how did I onboard this client? How did I pop this first batch of kettle
This is
corn?
amazing. This is so amazing. And it's funny how time flies when we're having fun.
Oh,
And so, yes, I'm like, oh my God, like, we have so much more to share. And Tanisha, I'm definitely going to get you back on the show, because I want to be able to share. So we started off by talking about the you that's in the process, right? And then we started talking about the security, taking risks, and stepping out on faith. And then we started talking about all the different processes that you will need, including continuing to grow, continue to learn, to continue to educate yourself, and knowing your business, knowing what you don't know so that you can delegate efficient and effectively. So these are all the things that we shared on just this one segment, Tanisha, but definitely have you coming back.
Oh, I want to come back.
We are about building wealth. We're about building wealth. We want to share barriers, but the best practices and the big ideas that you share today are phenomenal. And so I thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
To have you back again. Thank you, Tanisha.
Yes, thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Bye.